Hey listeners, this is Everett Maxine, the creator and host of The Absence of Her podcast. The podcast was birthed July 2019 in memory of my mother, who was found deceased June 19th, 2018. I share my life experiences to let others know they are not alone. Over the past few years, I spoke mainly from a place of pain during the beginning of my grief journey. As I am learning to navigate the journey and help listeners listen as well, I have relaunched to share more from a positive place of purpose. On all of my social media accounts, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, you can follow my handle, I am Everett Maxine. The podcast now has its own Instagram page, The Absence of Her podcast, and something new that you can follow, the AOH community. If you are a motherless daughter, or a woman or teen girl that has grown up in the home in the absence of a mother, please go to theabsenceofhercommunity.org and complete the entrance form. No matter where you are in the United States, I would like to know how you could benefit from community and connection. God has laid it upon my heart, and I believe this vision will come to fruition and many women and teen girls will be helped. If you enjoy this episode, like it, leave a comment, and most importantly, share. Simply share so that others know they're not alone. When I was younger, if there was a disagreement amongst people to choose sides, they would say blood is thicker than water. That just because we're connected by DNA, we must side with family. In current days, you will see the opposite. You'll see millions of TikTok videos and Snapchats and all the things where people are now posting about the trauma they have been experiencing of being forced to put family first. I know it's been a minute, but I'm getting back to the series, Pouring from an Empty Cup. And today we address part 2. Family. This episode, just like the last, I'll talk about the same 3 areas, but as it applies to family. Showing up, sacrifice, and support as a family member. Just a few weeks ago, one of my cousins sent me a text, and it basically was saying he was trying to convince me to come to this year's family reunion. Now, even though we're a black family from the country, it's more of an annual maternal family gathering than it is a true family reunion. We honor my grandmother who is in heaven. I'm 43 now. She passed away when I was around the age of 16. And so we used to have an annual birthday celebration for her. And so after she passed, they just started calling it a family reunion, still celebrating her birthday weekend. Most of my idea of a family reunion is like inviting distant cousins and a couple of generations of extended family. And we don't do that. It's just kind of a gathering of my mother's siblings. And my grandmother had 11 children. 10 of them lived. And now 5 are still living. Which there's only one aunt that may show. Another is a different faith. And so if she does show, it has to be late Saturday evening or on that Sunday. I have 3 uncles that remain, but most likely only 2 are going to show. And then it's my cousins, which most don't like to go to the country. And so, yeah, you can kind of figure out how that goes. So my first area I want to talk about is showing up. My problem about the family reunion is not necessarily about showing up, but the invitation and the feeling of inclusion. Now I'm one of those people, I can't go around you just because you're family. I'm not going to set aside time for somebody I don't feel connected with. My ex-husband used to say he didn't really care for holidays because on holidays, family act like, oh, we've been getting along all year long. And he's like, I'm not going to play pretend with you. And I agree. Like, I can't just force myself to show up if I haven't heard from you in months. And then when I do hear from you, it's not a positive situation. And the feeling of inclusion. I don't no matter where you go, especially with your own family, you don't want to feel like an outcast. You don't want to feel like a sore thumb. Not judging, but a lot of my cousins drink. I used to drink a lot. But it's just ain't much to do down there. And I just don't feel like I should force myself to do something that I feel uncomfortable doing. Now, mind you, the cousin that invited me, just like I have gone through therapy, he has too. I think we're the only two in our family that has truly gone through the mental health therapy process to really deal with some hard-hitting issues. We know our family has issues just like any other family. But there are some things that need to be addressed that our elders don't want to be addressed. And I saw something, it was on social media. And it says no one wants to deal with the healed version of you. Because if they deal with the healed version of you, they have to give more than mediocre. If they deal with the healed version of you, that means that they kind of have to do a self-reflection and say, what am I bringing to the table of this relationship? Because once you are healed and you have boundaries and you don't accept everybody's nonsense, they're going to have a problem with you. Showing up. So my mother passed in 2018, and every time we had this reunion, if someone had passed on, they would burn a candle, they'd say something in honor of them. And when my mom passed, they said nothing. They did nothing. They act like she wasn't even one of their siblings. Like, it was just very cold. It bothered me to my core. And even when I brought it up, they still didn't care that they did not acknowledge her. And our hometown is an hour and a half away south. Nobody in the family really lives there anymore. I have like one or two cousins that live there, but my grandmother's house is not livable. So if we go down there for 2-3 days, we have to pay for a hotel. And I'm just like, what's the point? We have to not only pay for a hotel, but we have to rent a building together as a family. With it just being a small amount of people, we would do better renting a space at a restaurant or just going out to eat together and not spending all of this money because there's no longer a big turnout. So, I mean, it's just different. When my grandmother was living and when my Aunt Rhonda was living, where the house was located in this small community, every time we had an event, our family was known for, letting people come because blood was not thicker than water. My grandmother treated people like they were family, whether they were or not blood related. And so the community got used to those events. And as my mom's siblings get older, they want to kind of restrict the events to family only. So it's just, I don't know. For me, I'm not about wasting money. I'm not about wasting time. If it's reasonable, I'll make time to do it. But on the flip side of that, as I'm talking about pouring from an empty cup, how much of myself should I be pouring out to show up for others if they don't show up for me? I'm a person that if we're not close, I'm really not going to feel some type of way if you don't show up for me, but don't throw a fit if I don't show up for you. Like, 1% of my family could probably tell you where I live at. And I'm not even talking about the physical address. I'm just talking about the city I live in. Sad, huh? 2020. I graduated from college to my bachelor's. I returned after my mom had passed away. And so I really pushed myself to graduate in the middle of all of the stuff that I went through in 2018. So if you haven't listened to my podcast, in 2018, my maternal grandmother passed away on May 28th. My mother was found deceased on June 19th. And I got my divorce by default November 5th. and a father figure in my childhood father figure died right at Thanksgiving. So it was a very difficult year, but I picked up the life insurance she left for me. I went back and finished my bachelor's degree so that I could have a career and a stable source of income as an educator. Excuse me. So it's 2020. Yeah, I know, COVID, all the things. But I decided to invite family for a celebration of not only my graduation, but my 40th birthday. I sent out several invites, not just to family, but people that I considered friends that might want to support me. And literally nobody came. I rented a hotel with two friends. And they had like a little graduation ceremony for me because Texas Southern at the last minute after I purchased my expensive cap and gown canceled the in-person graduation. They had already limited the amount of people that could come to like 2 or 3, and I couldn't even get 3 people to come. But that's okay, because I don't need a big crowd if they're not authentic. Some people, it matters about quantity over quality. That's not me. And it does bother some people that I am okay with being solo, but it's like, if you love you, it's okay to have friends and have girl trips and go out to clubs and all of the things. But if I like my peace and quiet and less drama, don't bother me about that. And then I think last year was my second annual Blessings and Brunch. And so I haven't been big on celebrating my birthday. I just really haven't. When I was married, we were always broke or something was a situation. And so because I love God and I know that's the best thing that I could give other people for my birthday, I've been inviting people to church for my birthday, and then afterwards we'll, go have dinner or whatever. Last year, not last year, 2023, because my birthday's in November, nobody came to church with me. Except for the church members that were already there that were invited to the brunch. And then the year before I had a couple of cousins show. But it's just like, they want me to show up to their events, but when I invite them to mine, they're no show. And then when I don't show, of course I get critiqued and get criticism. So next area, sacrifice. Like, we really got to quit putting expectations on people to sacrifice just because, as I talked about in part 1, because they're friends and because they're family. I hate when people say, but we're family. So what? So I'm supposed to sacrifice my peace and sanity because we're family? That's absolutely crazy to expect somebody to accept your nonsense just because we share the same blood. Because we're family, I'm supposed to loan out money and never expect it to be returned? That's crazy. Like, stop telling people that they should sacrifice because they love you and because you're family. Like, that's a bunch of poppycock. And what it really boils down to, especially when people are sacrificing their peace, sanity, and comfort, is it ends up being trauma. I saw a girl I used to work with post that she wasn't going to make her kids hug the auntie or the creepy uncle that everybody tells them to keep their kids away from. And you know what that uncle has done to some of the kids in the family. That's trauma. Because we're family and uncle may molest the child or whatever, and because we're family, we don't report him to the authorities. And we still expect her to come around the family like it's normal. That's trauma. That's some deep generational trauma that keeps happening. And we keep using because we're family. Like, stop doing that. Let people heal. Let people have their peace. Because we're family, I love you enough to want what's best for you. Because we're family, if you set boundaries, I'm going to respect them. Because we're family, if you hold me accountable, I'm going to self-reflect. Why can't we be in that headspace? Like, can we get past the nonsense? And the last part is support. So recently, back in April, y'all, I absolutely hate group text messaging. And I had let's talk about it. I had two sets of family get upset at me. So my biological father has 10 children, and by 9 different women. 3 of my siblings were born in the same year. Yeah, quite interesting. So I'm on a group text. Well, no longer on the group text. Everybody's blocked. I will block you in a second. I know it don't sound Christ-like, but guess what? I will have my peace. But anywho, there's 8 of us on this group text. So at one point they got upset with me because our youngest sister we haven't had contact with, but we have another sister that's a little older than me, and they're like, well, why don't you want her on the group text? Like, when can we add her? And I was like, first of all, y'all attacking me when y'all didn't want her on in the first place. Excuse me if my nose starts sounding all sinusy. Gotta love the summer sinus. So anyways, they're pitching a fit. I was like, if you want to create a different group text with her in it, I'm completely okay with that. We don't text that often anyway. So, and my family, my maternal family has WhatsApp. So we're supposed to message there, the pictures, whatever, put everything there. But it's only a handful of us that have continued to use it. So anyways, I get a random text in April. And the text is saying that my cousin is getting out of prison. They're having some family gathering that weekend. He wants to see family, blah, 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 blah. And it's about 15, 20 people in this group text message. Now, I'm already upset that you sent me a group text message, but I don't say nothing. I said, hey, just let it roll off your back. Don't say nothing. Don't create any friction, because they're going to be saying, oh, she's acting like she's being the brat that she's always been. So I don't say anything. One of my older cousins comments and says, not to be mean, y'all, but can you please take me out of the group chat? The group text. Now that he said it, I feel free to say, hey, yeah, I feel the same way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm with him. Please remove me from the group text. His brother follows up and says, ooh, we supposed to be family. Y'all petty. Now, I ain't go left the first time when y'all send me a group text, and I've clearly asked y'all not to group text me. And especially because this group text had more than just family in it. But I'm not going to go into all the tea on that. But when he said y'all are petty, because I don't want all these alerts going on my phone, and I got half these people in this group text that I don't even know whose number this belongs to. Like, that was real jacked up. So I didn't cuss nobody out, but I just politely set my boundaries, and I said, I'm petty because I have boundaries. I'm petty because I asked y'all not to group text me, and you did. I don't know. So I ended up letting that conversation go. They had their gathering, whatever. So recently, as I'm planning to take another mission trip, and go abroad and serve the Lord and serve others and get my heart right, my mom's oldest brother reaches out to me. Now, he had called twice, and I was like, well, I need to call him back. And I, giving him the benefit of the doubt, is believing that, oh, he's calling maybe because to check on, see how I'm doing. Because June 19th made 6 years since my mother passed away. And then this past Sunday, made 6 years since her celebration of life service. Of course, I always try to think positive for these people, and I was wrong. I call him back, and I'm driving around town because I'm trying to get to the craft store to go get a paint pen because I was doing a project, and I'm focused on that. And he's talking to me, and saying a little couple of things about the mission and how expensive alcoholic drinks are when you take yourself out, all the things. And he says, but I want to have a conversation with you later, just me and you one-on-one. And I'm thinking, we're talking right now. Like, what is he talking about? So, he continues to babble on about whatever. We babble on for another few minutes. And then he says, well, I need to talk to you about your response to something that I didn't like. Now, mind you, it's late June. I haven't seen him since my birthday in November. And I'm trying to think, what is he talking about? My response to what? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so he starts talking about the group text from April, y'all. That's what, April, May, June. It's been 3 months. And that he didn't like my response and says, well, family tries to support you and people want to be there for you. But when you make responses like that, and at this point, I done just about tuned you out because you didn't really ask how I was doing. You didn't think about the anniversary of my mother passing. You didn't think about my emotional state, and that you have the audacity to even hold on to something at your age for 3 months that I let go that day. But what really got me was when I said I didn't even start the conversation going in a negative direction. And I explained that to him. And his comment was, you're the one that goes to church. You're supposed to be the Christian. You should act better. I go to church because I need to do better. I seek Christ daily because I need to do better. I never say I'm a Christian so therefore I'm better than somebody else. I don't care what faith my family serves. Everybody should be striving to do better. That shouldn't be thrown on me. So I hung up, and I know some people will disagree, but I hung up on that conversation. And I have no intent on talking to him again. I have no intent on battling with somebody about the dumbest drama when people are dropping dead daily. I have no intent on addressing and sacrificing my time over foolishness. It's just foolishness. So my empty cup, my mom has passed a 6-year anniversary. Nobody's supporting me. I've had to go through a career change through health issues that they know nothing about. And I don't even care to share. But as I speak about showing up, sacrifice, and support, as I'm preparing to leave for my next mission in the Czech Republic, I was considering, because I had not seen family and friends for a while, having a send-off for this spiritual journey. And since I wasn't going to be present for the family reunion, I told my cousin maybe this could be like a pre-reunion, start y'all off. I was going to do something, expenses paid by me, just some small gathering. And I had just announced it on the same day that my uncle just pissed on me. And I know that doesn't sound like the best term or whatever, but that's how I felt. It's my podcast. And I'm all about being transparent about your feelings. And so that day I was like, oh, well, it's canceled. I'm not doing this send-off. I'm not doing this with family. But at the end of the day, if I want to celebrate me, if I want to allow those that authentically care about me to show up and support and pray for me in this journey. Because missionary work can be dangerous at times. Traveling alone, Getting on a plane can be dangerous at times. But I say all this to say, stop placing expectations on people just because they're family. Stop expecting people to show up for you and sacrifice and support you just because y'all share the same blood or DNA. That's not fair. And the very next day, after I had this situation with the group text, it was like the attack of the group text. My siblings, they started texting, and I was, and I have one sibling that's texting another when they could just like text each other one-on-one. And I was just kind of over it. I was just like, please remove me from this group text. And my sister says, well, I can only add people. I can't remove people. So I was like, well, y'all can, and they were like, oh, well, now we can add the other sisters and she doesn't want to be a part of us. Fine, you're not hurting my feelings. But I had to block some siblings because they insisted on communicating in this group text that they were doing, knowing that I've asked them not to do that. Very insensitive, very disrespectful of boundaries, but I've moved on. Stop taking crap because you're taught that blood is thicker than water. Because guess what? You keep pouring out, and dealing with people's stuff, then you're empty. Or you keep filling your cup with people's stuff, and there's no room for God. There's no room for what you need for yourself. And then you're just full of a bunch of junk. And most importantly, learn to love people from a distance, because you deserve to be happy, at peace, and whole. I mean, we all want to do right by people, but sometimes the best thing you can do from people is just let them live their life, let them be where they're at, because you can't change anybody. Only God can change people. I am Everett Maxine. I want to thank you for listening to The Absence of Her podcast. Please like, follow, and most importantly, share, so others will know they are not alone.